Hey, everybody, how are you? I love you, I miss you, and it is good to see you. This is the monthly event where Whosoever Will holds an open town hall meeting. And the purpose of this meeting is to hear from you, to get your input, to hear what you have to say about things. And we hold this meeting by way of the Clubhouse app. In order to be a part of this meeting, you do not have to be a member of Whosoever Will. You do not have to be a Christian. Your opinion, your experiences still matter to us, even if you are neither of those things. So, this is our attempt to make sure that we do not become closed minded or to where we are unable to hear that which other people, their opinions, their ideas, their suggestions, and so forth. So, that is what we have this particular meeting for. Currently, we keep going over and over our issues with police brutality. It's an important topic that we cannot seem to just quickly overlook and quickly go on to other things. We have to kind of stay there a moment and marinate on the challenges that we face within that particular arena. So, if you are watching and you're interested in giving your opinion, you are more than welcome to log into um, the Clubhouse app and look for um, WsW Advocacy Dash Open. That's the name of our clubhouse. And this is where you can have conversations. If you're watching me live on either Facebook or Instagram or YouTube, then you can pose and type a question in the comment screen, and I will see it and I will try to respond to it there as well. However, we do have one of the implementation members on the Clubhouse app with us, and that's Yolanda. Yolanda, I hope everyone will be able to hear you, but we're going to give it a try. This is a good way for us to start practicing. So, why don't you say hello, and I'm going to see if it comes through.
Hello, everybody. I'm going to try to speak loudly so you can hear me. So I hope everybody's having a good night, and I'm glad we get to continue to talk about this important subject.
Yes, amen, amen, amen. Since we're just going to wait, Miss Yolanda, to see if anybody is going to join us either online or through Clubhouse, why don't you just kind of share with us your impressions of the conversation so far, and what you think is important for us to kind of research and get down to, and what's just on your heart in reference to the topic?
Okay. I'm glad you asked that because we had a quick conversation after the meeting, after the show, and we both felt that we keep dancing around the subject of police brutality, but we're not quite there yet.
Right.
And so I keep thinking about it. And I'm like, of course, there's police brutality. Of course, it shows itself in many different facets in our communities. But again, I still feel that it's the racism that is the fabric of our country. But how do we get to what people have been personally feeling from the police department, because the police department is here to help you, not to hurt you or hinder you. But we have seen several times that this is not the case. And so the conversation, I believe, is still like, there is police brutality. How do we address the police brutality? Because again, as a police officer, I'm going to tell you my take on it, and I can also tell you as an African American woman, black woman in this country, that yes, I have also dealt with things that felt like oppression and police brutality myself. So it's just how do we get to the meat of that conversation, and then once we do, which is important to get to the center of it. First of all, we need to understand what it is, where it is, how it penetrates our lives, even in our even every day in our everyday lives, and in our work environments, in our cities, in our schools, in our government, and how do we go from there. And so I've been trying to think about it, and I'm like, I still can't put my finger on it quite. And I know it's a sensitive topic for a lot of people. It's a sensitive topic for everybody in this country, I believe, because each person has their own opinion of um, the state of this country and the state of our police departments. Either if you're on whatever end you're receiving from that department and from our country. So I'm not quite sure how we can get down to the substance of this conversation and how we can go from there. You made a
Yeah.
really great you made a really great comment about it. You're like, if I say it's this, you'll say it's the system. If I say it's this, then you say it's I forgot exactly how you worded it. If you remember what you said, could you please say it again?
Yeah. And I've noticed it with a lot of uh, political debates, not just police brutality. I've noticed it with pretty much everything. It's kind of like if a person addresses the systemic issue, then someone will debate the personal experience, whether that's a
Right.
positive or a negative. So if I tell you that the system, a particular system is corrupt, then the person will respond with, well, I've never been corrupted, or I've never had them take my money. You so and so then
Right.
and if someone else comes at with a personal experience, then that person's response will be a systemic issue. Well, I understand that you went through something terrible, but overall the system is working. So it's kind of like it keeps going from the macro, i.e., the large concept of it, to the micro, i.e., the individual experiences that people are having. So we're never really able to narrow down what the problem is, because whoever you talk to, they switch sides. They switch from the micro to the macro, or the macro to the micro, and so we never really get down to the point of whether or not there's a systemic issue, whether or not something needs to be addressed. Like, um, as you've pointed out multiple times, Miss Yolanda, there are people who have personally been traumatized by police brutality, and when they share their personal experience, people say, oh well, you're an exception to the rule you know
Well,
the
I don't think it's just that, because you can see it in communities as well. How communities have been oppressed by police
mhm,
brutality, or
mhm, mhm,
or just police presence in certain areas. And so I think though, what your point is, I think what we try to need to probably understand is that both of your points can be true. You can
mhm,
hold them in that space and say, yeah, there's a personal problem, and yes, it's a systemic issue, but it's also a personal issue, because
mhm.
that's true.
Right.
And so, in working on a police, that's the thing. There's another book I was reading
Mhm,
called "The Whiteness of Wealth,"
mhm,
and they were saying how systemically there is a problem with our tax system and how it taxes minorities unfairly.
mhm,
But when you look at law, the
mhm,
law that itself, the tax law, is not racist when you read it, unless you break it
mhm,
down until this law is racist because it pretty much targets a certain person who makes a certain type of not a certain person, a certain people who make a certain amount of money, and this is damaging to them.
mhm,
and
mhm.
and then you can see the racism in the tax law. And I
Right.
believe that's probably what we have with the police department too, because being on the police department, they can't outright tell you something on there that's racist. They can't make racist policy. However, how they enforce it in one area and another area might be is where you see the brutality and the racism
Yeah. Yeah.
coming.
So
I think that might be more.
do you think, in your personal opinion, Miss Yolanda, that what am I trying to say? Um, you made the comment, racism being a part of the fabric of our society. That's a really good descriptor. So, do you think that if police brutality is primarily an issue of racism being the fabric of our society, do you believe that there is any sort of system that can be in place to address something that's on that elemental level? Does that make sense? I mean,
I do, but I'm trying to. I do understand what you're saying. Is what I'm saying. I
mhm,
don't necessarily know if there's a fixed to people's personal biases and prejudices.
Mm-hmm.
And so everywhere you go, people have their certain biases and prejudices, and they bring them to their job.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm trying to think of a group of people who might just in your clan or your tribe or your religion or your financial financial range. You look at things differently than somebody who, like, people will tell you to pull yourself up by your bootstraps and stop begging for stuff if you don't have a lot of, if you come on hard times.
Right.
But you can tell, pandemic hit, there were people of all financial backgrounds going to food banks.
Right.
And so you saw that a lot. But when they're in their comfort, when rich people are in their comfort, or middle class people are in their comfort, they're like, oh, they need to stop doing blah blah blah. They don't need to do this and do that.
Right.
When the hard time for them, they did what they told us not to do, or other people not to do.
Right.
And so, but that's because they didn't see it from another person's standpoint. And so a poor person, like, they'll tell you to invest in something. But if you're trying to go from paycheck, if you're going from paycheck to paycheck, and most of the time you're behind on the paycheck, you can't take the time to invest money. You can't take the time to try to. You really can't if you're trying to make it in life and you
right.
got children or you bills or something like that. But for somebody else with money, it just looks like you're not being financially savvy, and you're being more savvy than anybody else because you got to make two nickels turn into $2.
Right.
So,
right.
And so I know I'm kind of off topic, but it's just, how do you get somebody to change their personal biases and prejudices when they come to a job? Because some people, you can see, I don't know if you remember David Duke, the racist guy who was, I think he was on the O.J. Simpson trial.
Right.
He was a police officer, and then he tried to run for office.
Right.
It's kind of, yeah. And so people who have a certain mindset will try to get into a position of power, just like a predator will try to ingratiate themselves in a situation where they could be near the person they're preying on.
Right.
And so they'll be the coach at the school, and they'll be the one who's for women violence or something like that. Those are the people who are perpetrating the crimes.
Right.
And so yeah, and I also think that we have our own personal biases as well. And I'm not just saying it's just racism; it's just personal prejudices, and everybody brings that to their job. Every
right.
single person does. And so, how do you change that? Even with policy and procedures, a person can pretend to be ethical,
right?
But you can't necessarily teach them to be ethical.
Right.
They can just pretend that they are, or they can act according to the policy, but at some point they're probably not going to.
Yeah. I kind of think what you're saying. I have a tendency to agree with it. I don't think you can change a person's core mindset through policy. They're going to tell you what you want to hear,
Right.
during the training or whatever, or the testing, but then they will go back to their default mindset, their default personality, which is, if that happens to be a prejudice, then they will default back to that. And people
And
will have a.
not only that,
Mm-hmm.
they'll find a group of people who are like-minded like them and hang
Right.
out with them.
Exactly. I agree completely. So it is, as you already said, a very complicated and complex issue of trying to find the right balance. And it's not going to happen overnight, but I guess we will keep chipping away at the topic until we get to where we need to be. So, but we are at 15 minutes and no one else, let me just double check here, but it doesn't look like anyone else has logged into the Clubhouse app. So I am going to save this recording on Clubhouse as well as on our group pages, just so that everyone can know that we have once a month an open town hall meeting. And the purpose of this meeting is we will cover various topics during these meetings. However, right now we are kind of focusing on the um, the topic of police brutality. And so, if you are someone who wants to contribute your thoughts, your impressions, your experiences to our advocacy group, Whosoever Will is an advocacy group. And if there is something that you want to share with us, uh, depending on the topic that we are having at that time, then this would be the way that you do this. And it would be on the second Thursday of the month at 8 p.m. And Miss Yolanda will be joining me until the foreseeable future as we help you together. The two of us will help you to explore whatever topic we're dealing with at that time, because we believe that listening to people is the beginning of how you're able to minister and support and show the love of God. If you cannot listen to someone and their opinions, then you really need to stop talking. So that's how we feel about that. And I will be back with you all on next Sunday, which will be what day is next Sunday, Miss Yolanda? Let me look on my calendar here. I did not pull up that slide.
The upcoming Sunday is the 18th, and the one after that is the 25th.
Yes, okay. So on the 18th of this month, I will be back with you all, and we will be doing the Uncharted Terror. Miss Yolanda enjoys that show. So yeah, that's where I really get into teaching the scriptures and talking about the me to we transition. So we really kind of get into some in-depth spiritual conversations. And so, as usual, I'm working hard to give you all some quality information. So I would love for you all to join me on next Sunday. And I think the time is 7:30 or 8 o'clock. I will post it on our pages so that you can see it for the Me to We transition of the Uncharted Territory shows. Thank you so much, and I will see you all on Sunday. Okay? God bless. Take care.